I don't know if I'm that mythical or legendary, but I'll take the hype. Thank you for that. I hope you all enjoyed our impromptu live performance from the New York Fire Department. That was cool. We appreciate all of you for powering right through that. Like, all of y'all were so engrossed with the content. You're like, we got to go. We got to get back up there. That was awesome. So I hope you enjoyed your breakout tracks. The room is still full, so we haven't bored you yet. And there's still alcohol and food to come. So I think we're doing something right. Thanks for sticking through it. A lot of great energy, certainly in track one, which is the one I was able to be part of, including some great discussion around how experiential retail is making a comeback in a big way as folks re-enter the new normal. So, well, I think I'm getting too close to the speaker. But I'm not going to bore you with more content. We are going to do our passport program giveaway. So hopefully our lucky winners are in the room right now. We'll be celebrating our client, Samsung, and handing out some Galaxy Buds Pro headphones. Our first winner is Mick Lewis. Are you here?
All right,
Mick?
come on up. Give him a big round of applause. It's like an Oprah moment.
Come on over. We gotta get a picture. We gotta get a picture. Come on back. Come back. I'm getting the stink eye over here. This is how I'm trying to buy legend status, just like give people free stuff. All right, next up, Charles Berry. You here, Charles?
Charles, come on down.
I have to thank Charles. He led the way.
Nice, nice. Congratulations, Charles.
Thank you.
That is a fly jacket. Here you go.
I appreciate it. Trying to step up to you.
You know. Awesome.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. All right. Sadly, I have no more prizes to give away, but I do have the pleasure of introducing our final panel for the day. Our team, just sitting in the middle of all of the innovation happening in e-commerce, was able to, over the last few years, build a program, the most influential in e-commerce, where we bring together the folks driving the change we all take for granted as consumers. And we all know how hard it is to drive those innovations on the inside. And so we recognize 30 folks each year as the most influential in e-commerce, and we're going to bring up a cross-section of them on stage today to share some of their perspectives. And the person who's going to take us through that is John Serdykowski from Avex Designs. John, come on up. Thank you for doing this. Looking forward to the discussion. All yours.
At first, when they mentioned the man, the myth, the legend, I thought they were about to introduce me, and I started to stand up, and I almost walked on stage and made a fool of myself. They gave me these cool cards so I don't mess up as much as I'm gonna. So my name is John Serdykowski. I'm the founder and CEO at Avex. We're an e-commerce agency based out of New York City. Today we're joined by 3 of Signify's most influential people in e-commerce. For those of you who aren't familiar, Signify's most influential in e-commerce list shines a well-deserved spotlight on the e-commerce leaders driving change within their industry. The concept was born out of efforts of many online retailers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Story after story emerged of inspirational e-commerce leaders who are scaling operations to deliver essential goods, managing broken supply chains with creativity, and deploying new curbside pickup options in record time. Signify's most influential e-commerce program not only recognizes heroic leaders and their success stories, but creates a space for learning within the community. Honorees will share wealth of knowledge through a series of year-round virtual and physical events, just like this one. Today we are joined by 3 really amazing people in e-commerce. Well, 4, because I'm here too. Sean Potter Bradford, the Director of Customer Care at Carbon 38. Please come to the stage. Hey, thank you. Have a seat. Yeah, any chair you want. Also, Devin Nelson, Director of Fraud Prevention at Overstock.com. I like your look, Devin. And also Sheena Brady, founder at Tees. All right, the hard part's over for me. I'm less nervous. Now you three could be nervous. Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself. Sean, sorry.
Yeah, Sean?
Yes.
All right, that's me. I'm Sean Bradford. I am the director for customer care at Carbon 38. We are an athleisure and loungewear brand for women. Sorry, men, no tights for you as of yet. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very sorry.
And Devin from Overstock, would love to hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm Devin Nielsen. I started at Overstock as a temporary fraud analyst for the fourth quarter, and I kind of just fell in love with the job, and I was really good at it, and I've been at Overstock for 11 years now. Now I'm the director of fraud prevention and pay support, and I also do personal training on the side, so that's something many of you probably don't know about me.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
And Sheena.
Yes. Thank you for having me here today. So I'm Sheena Brady. I'm the founder and tea sommelier at Tees. I swear that's a real certification. And so we create wellness-centric tea blends and tea and botanical infused products to support your everyday wellness rituals. And I just want to also give like a really big thanks to the Signify team for just recognizing us, and myself particularly, for the award. It really means a lot as a small, but we're a small, emerging, ambitious brand at Tees, and so to win this award is just hugely validating for us. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Three great people up here.
Yeah, on that note, the company at Overstock doesn't like to talk about the fraud prevention team, but when I was on the list of the 30, the CEO sent out an email to the entire company and congratulated me. So it's like one of the first time in 10 years that we've been on that email. So,
Awesome. Congrats to everyone. So Sheena, first topic we're going to discuss is sustainability.
Yes.
Tees has made great strides in their mission to lead consciously and offer sustainable products that benefit consumers, the environment, and women. Tees is now the first B Corp certified tea company in Canada. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. Congrats on that. I'm
Thank
sure that
you.
was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your sustainability journey and also how you made the decision to invest in the certification, which was probably very difficult, especially estimating an ROI.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Tees is 8 years old, and we've always been focused on social impact before I even knew what that word meant. I think we all know that we're continuing to see this huge growth and evolution of conscious consumerism, and customers really wanting to vote more consciously with their dollar, and at least I identify with that demographic, I guess, technically. So for Tees in our early days, our investment was all about, investing in women. So like with Tees, we'd like to think that when you're taking a moment to enjoy any of our, wellness-centric blends, whether it's to help improve focus, sleep, energy, anxiety. Am I too close to the speaker? Or am I okay? I'm okay? Okay.
I chose the wrong seat.
Okay. But this whole idea is you're taking a moment to invest in yourself, right? Taking that moment for pause, a moment to invest in your well-being before you carry on with the chaos of everyday life. And at the same time, you're also investing in women. And so we got a lot more intentional about what that meant specifically in 2019 when we developed our own sister organization called Founders Fund, Founders Fund Canada, because I know Peter Thiel has his own Founders Fund, and that's like a whole other thing, not to be confused with. But so we invest a portion of proceeds from every single order into our sister organization, Founders Fund, who provides micro grants and funding to underrepresented women entrepreneurs across Canada and the US. And then in terms of becoming a certified B Corp, that just felt like the most logical step, because we knew we had, this living very authentically internally and externally as a company, our values of social impact and sustainability. But we felt, we had a responsibility to our customers to explain what that means exactly, and to be audited and verified for that and have that transparency. And so that embarked us on a 2-year journey to become a benefit corporation, and it was a grueling journey, but so worth it. And we are just so proud to be able to walk the talk authentically when we talk about sustainability and social impact, and really be certified alongside these incredible brands like Allbirds and Patagonia and Ben & Jerry's, and that we think at Tees, again, like I said, we're a small but growing brand, that it's never too early or too late to really start being very intentional about your social impact and measuring that and being held accountable and transparent to your customers in the process.
No, that's great. And speaking of sustainability, how have you seen consumer shopping habits evolve, especially towards more sustainable products?
Yeah, I'll tell a short story of my own personal experience during the pandemic. So Tees, prior to the pandemic, was primarily known as a loose leaf tea company for several years. And I did private label for one specific client, and they were like, we want it only in tea bag format. We want the quality and the integrity of your loose leaf blends, but in tea bag format because it's too messy to make tea and it's like a whole thing, and we just want it to be convenient. I was like, okay, you want to pay for it? No problem. So we did that for them exclusively. And then when the pandemic hit, all of us, all of a sudden we're working from home and we're going from like Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, and the demands of like childcare and everything. And gone were the days of like being able to saunter into the break room and like make a cup of loose leaf tea. It's like, no, I need my tea now. I need it right away. I need that like quick moment of, recalibration before I jump into the next Zoom meeting. And so I started exclusively consuming the private label tea bags that I created for this one client. Same quality ingredients, just in a tea bag format versus loose. And I realized, oh shit, I'm no longer.
You could curse it.
I realized in that moment, I'm no longer my main customer. Like that, there's something wrong with that. Like, let's unpack that. And so, just doing a lot of internal and external research, we realized what the pandemic really kind of taught us is like people really want more accessible, convenient, wellness-centric products without compromising, again, convenience, sustainability, or impact. And so we, I don't know why we did this in retrospect because it was a nightmare, but we relaunched our entire company this past September, our entire product collection during a supply chain crisis that was awful to navigate across the board and very expensive to navigate. But in the process, we were able to actually develop the world's first fully biodegradable and refillable wellness tea collection with the option to also auto-subscribe and save for those refills. So really just making it more convenient and accessible and enjoyable than ever for our customers.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And how are you communicating those sustainability efforts back to your consumers?
Yeah, so we have a transparency and impact report that we do share quarterly. That's one of the ways. But most importantly, just making sure that we try and like weave that into every product that we create as thoughtfully as we can. Like I said, we haven't had everything figured out since day one when we talk about sustainability and social impact. But we like to think that we've been learning since day one, and every time that we have an opportunity to rethink how we do things to create, a better experience for our customers while keeping those sustainability, values in mind, like we try.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all that, and congrats on becoming a B Corp.
Thank you.
Must have been very
We're really
difficult.
proud. Yeah.
Yeah. Devin, how's it going?
Doing well.
Good. Fraud and consumer abuse, the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have said that consumer abuse or friendly fraud is the next major mountain to climb for risk teams. How have you seen consumer abuse change over the last couple of years, and why is it such a difficult problem to address? First, if you can, tell us what friendly fraud is, because maybe everyone else knows, but I had to look it up and I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah.
And it's like a real thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, I never heard this term before. But for those who don't know what friendly fraud is, it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about
definitely.
that.
How many of you out there do know what friendly fraud is and have had to deal with it, unfortunately? Okay. So some people do. Friendly fraud is a type of fraud chargeback that consumers are filing for various reasons. It could be intentional or unintentional. Some people are just looking for a free product, or some customers don't realize that that's the refund process. There's a lot of various reasons that customers do file friendly fraud chargebacks, and typically what we'd consider a friendly fraud chargeback versus a true fraud chargeback is the AVS information matches to the customer, it's same bill ship, or the email address matches to the customer, it's on a good customer's account. So everything matches, and those are the hardest to detect when you're trying to get orders through the system, a more frictionless experience. But in 2020, we saw our business increase a ton, and we also saw friendly fraud chargebacks increase a ton. We categorize all of our fraud, so every type of fraud chargeback we categorize as like account takeover, friendly fraud, true fraud, triangulation fraud. Do any of you categorize each of your fraud chargebacks? Nobody? I would highly recommend you do it so you can keep track of the patterns of abuse. But our friendly fraud chargebacks went from around 20% of count and 30% of amount, dollar amount of our total fraud chargebacks. Right now, they're about 60%. So in the last couple of years, it's increased drastically. And part of that is things like the supply chain issues. Customers weren't getting their item fast enough, so they'd file a fraud chargeback, and then they'd receive their item later. Or they wanted a refund, or various other reasons. There are legit reasons, like if they actually don't get the item delivered, or it was damaged, and we refuse to issue the refund. We did see that escalate a lot more of our friendly fraud chargebacks when we changed our return policy to 30 days no matter what the item is. And our friendly fraud chargebacks went up just from that small change. We can look in customers' accounts and see that they tried to call us and tried to return the item, but we didn't allow them to. So that's actually costing us more than they thought it would, just by lowering that return threshold. Yeah, and other consumer abuse. We have seen a lot of refund abuse escalate. There's people, fraudsters on the dark web, that will offer a service of getting you a refund. They guarantee you a refund, and they charge something like 20% of the total item. And they'll call in our customer service, and they've memorized our refund guidelines and our return guidelines. They know everything about it. So they'll call to companies and they guarantee you a refund. And we've found overstock on the lists on the dark web multiple times. So we've seen that escalate. So that's something, if you're into data or you haven't been looking at your refunds, I would definitely look into that more and review your refund policies. And then we've also had an increase of like item never delivered claims, empty box claims, damaged in transit claims. And it's sometimes legitimate and sometimes not. A good way to keep track of that is using services like Signified or other services to get your device fingerprint and all of the information. On really high risk orders, we use Jumio to get ID, so we have them take a picture of themselves with the ID. That makes it a lot easier to fight those chargebacks and win those chargebacks. So those are just some of the things that you can do.
Wow.
Hopefully that answers that question.
It definitely does, and I never knew that they were selling return fraud on the dark web. I guess you could sell anything on there. So
yeah, to get to familiar yourself with it, I think it's called Bob's Refund Handbook. If you just Google that, you can download the PDF, and they take you step by step on what they do. And the bad thing about this being out there is it used to be for sale on the dark web. Now it's just freely available on the clear web. And you can actually see their entire process of how they review companies, what they'll do, and then you can hopefully update your refund or returns policies based on some of that information.
Wow. Well, if there's any cyber criminals in the audience, you're going to learn a lot of how to.
If only I didn't have morals.
So it could be like, it could seem like risk teams are often at odds with growth leaders within the business when protections that are put in place create hurdles for legitimate shoppers. How have you taken a frictionless approach to risk management at Overstock that prioritizes approval and conversion rates? And could talk a little bit more about that. Basically, how do you put something in place that protects from fraud but also allows a great customer experience?
Yeah, so at Overstock, it's not an entirely frictionless experience for consumers because we do manually review about 4 to 6% of the orders depending on the time. And we take a layered approach, so we use multiple fraud services, and they'll flow through the different rule sets. And I think the biggest benefit of using a layered approach is the network data. So Signified has great network data, and so do the other companies we use. So we use risk scores from a few different places, and that allows us to get a lot more good customers and good information through. So if we have customer history, generally those orders will get through in a frictionless experience. We're only reviewing the highest risk of the orders, but yeah, I would say take a layered approach and analyze your data.
Got it. Thanks, Sean. I'm sorry. Thanks, Devin. Moving on to Sean. We're going to discuss a little bit about the future of customer experience. Making sure that we're protecting from fraud, but still providing a great customer experience. So, speaking of CX, what does the future of customer service look like to you?
Yeah, I think that's both of them are a really good tie-in. Carbon 38 right now is in a process of rebranding, but from a little bit of a different aspect where we're really trying to understand who our customer is, how to resonate with her, and how we can provide what we offer in a way that is helpful. And right now, where fraud is concerned, just like we've heard, I think kind of ring true throughout this whole seminar, is that we're trying to protect losses, but provide a good experience to our customer, right? Who wants to get that weird email where it's like, hey, we need to verify some information? No one. I don't want to get it. It means that there's going to be a period of time where I am without whatever I've ordered. And all the women in here know that as soon as we click submit, we're basically waiting for the tracking. And then we're looking out of the window and we're waiting for like FedEx, right? So there's a little bit of a poor experience when there's a delay. Especially when you may even get that, by the time we get all of the information collected and we've gone through our whole manual process, then that wonderful item or items that we've ordered are now out of stock, right? It sucks. And I know that my customer service team hates to be on the other end of that phone call. Unfortunately, especially when we get calls from New Yorkers, guys. We get scared. We know the area codes. Yeah, so really, and I'll probably sound like a little bit of I'm not paid by Signified at all. However, perhaps I could request a small fee. They've been very helpful for us in automating a lot of our processes so that we can still have the best of both worlds, right? We want to be able to try to automate and detect fraud as quickly as possible and take action against those that are true fraud. But we also appreciate the ability to customize so that those customers who can provide additional verification can then provide that and then have their orders like pushed through. So really we're in a big customer experience push where we're trying to really cater. We've learned a lot. I think, COVID was such a devastating time for a lot of us. People lost family members, and it was a big area of fear for a lot of us, just the unknown. But one thing that it's taught us is that people are craving an experience, and they want that connection. And so what we were doing before is not good enough. They want to feel, customers and consumers want to feel reassured, and they want more than just the day-to-day. We talked about just satisfying the customer, and that's no longer good enough. So that's one area that we're really working on. And the faster we can get to fraud and mitigate that, and the quicker we can get our good and true customers back up and running and get their orders in their hands, then we've created a really good experience for them. So Signified has really helped us in that area and really taught us a lot. Friendly fraud, which is not so friendly, I think it's so evolving and changes so quickly, and almost as soon as we think we've got it figured out, you can attest to this, then we really haven't, right? And so we've learned a lot through Signified on different trends. We partner with Nike, we partner with Adidas by Stella McCartney, Beach Riot. So some of these bigger ticket items where people are just waiting on these drops to happen, right? So if there's a Nike Dunk drop happening somewhere, Carbon's not the only person selling it. And what happens is they prey on the smaller companies because we haven't got our policies and things together. And so, it's just been a huge learning experience. And then we've been able to go out and make a lot of operational changes. So it's been a really good partnership, and we're really just focusing on what that looks like for our customers and how we can continue to empower her through fashion, which is our kind of niche.
Amazing, thank you. And I think it's great to think about like how does fraud play a role in CX, because a lot of times we think about CX, we're just thinking about customer service, or we're thinking about user experience, or thinking about what's going on the site or shipping. But protecting the brand, protecting the customers from fraud, and providing a great customer experience across the board, that's what it's all about. So how are you thinking about CX for Carbon 38 in the future? What's the vision for support for Carbon 38, and what's on the horizon, what's on the roadmap?
Yeah. So really, for us, we're taking a lot of our learnings. So one of the things that we're really focusing on is, so we've got one of the highest volume drivers that we have, other than where's my tracking or where's my order, which is usually like number one, is our customer loves to call in and talk to us about our products, and they want to know. Which is our branded label, so our Takaras, if anybody's familiar with that, they're kind of like a shiny legging, kind of similar to this pleather situation I have going on. But it's like, they want to know like, hey, like, what is best for yoga? Or I'm going to go and do a HIIT class, and I want things to stay in place, if you know what I mean. And so, what we're really trying to do is give that to the customer in the forefront, so that she has exactly what she needs, and she can kind of categorize, what she's looking for. And that's one of the things that we get a lot from customers, trying to really figure out what they need and what works best for their activities. We have a huge ambassador following as well, and they're really big on our brands and our products too. So that's one of the things we're focused on. We're also in the process now that we've gathered a lot of data about who our customer is, what she wants from us, what she hates, what she loves, how can we serve it to her? In my opinion, customer service never starts until you're in a proactive situation. If your customers are calling and they're emailing, which thank God, because we all, pays our bills and pays our rent, then you're not necessarily doing your job. The idea is to provide everything that your customers need to the best of their ability on whether that be in your FAQs and them being interactive, and you having forms and really gathering that data and gathering that information. So right now we're really focused as we move on into some machine learning and AI, and really taking the information that we gathered. Like I heard another speaker talking about, what are you doing with the information? Like, are you just gathering this information, and what wealth of knowledge do you have that you may not be utilizing, that you may not be capitalizing on, and you really don't know who your customer is? So that's really where we are now. Amazing.
And are you currently doing personalization on the site right now, like AI-driven personalization?
Yeah, so we just, I think I mentioned before, we've just gone through a relaunch. We've migrated from Magento to Shopify. We've had we're not even a year in with Shopify. We've had a really good run with Shopify, where we're just taking everything that we've learned and putting it into the forefront. So yeah, we're basically taking all of everything that we've learned, and then kind of trying to supply it in a way to her that resonates and helps her kind of have a guided experience. So essentially, you could go on and, let's say you could type in yoga, and it would pair you yoga with mats, because we have health wear. We have some health items. We've got some other wellness items and things like that too. So we're just in a space where we're trying to figure out like what that looks like and how we can package it to her in a way that doesn't feel. One thing that I remember speaking to the leadership team about is like, we want it to feel really organic. We want it to feel really natural. So when you start with like machine learning, and we don't want like the chat bot that just pops up and says, hey, you spent 10 minutes on here, and everybody knows that's what it is. We want it to feel really organic and really original, and something that kind of, pulls at the heartstrings of customers.
No, that's great. And I think the brands that are doing that are the ones that are really showing a lot of success, especially when it comes to personalizing the customer experience, personalizing content, and doing it in a very authentic way, and not just trying to, use AI to do everything, or just bots for everything. So that's great. Yeah. So I'm out of questions. Are we going to take some from the audience?
I did want to say one more thing.
Oh yeah.
Sean reminded me of part of the frictionless experience that I was going to talk about in the layered approach that we utilize. Prior to, what we use Signified for mostly is when we reject an order as suspected fraud or we cancel an order because we couldn't get a hold of the customer. We send it to Signified and they re-review it, and then they make the final decision on it. Prior to implementing Signified, our insult rate is what we call when we cancel an order or we reject an order, the customer calls back and it was a legitimate order. That was around 3%. We were losing $100,000 to $200,000 a month just in insults. After Signified, it's around $10,000 to $20,000 a month. So it drastically improved our frictionless experience, or at least part of the frictionless experience for those orders that we were canceling. And those customers will probably reorder versus if you get an order canceled, you might never shop there again. So it's drastically improved the customer experience in that way as well.
Excellent. So you've literally saved millions of dollars.
Yes.
Wow. It's good investment.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to be recognized again from your boss for that, right? All right, I have the microphone, so anybody have a question? Come on. Got some great leadership up here. Anyone? It's okay if you know. Oh, yes, we do. There you are, right here. Thanks.
Thank you. For the entire panel, just curious how you're planning on maximizing other features of Signified in the future, because we have a lot. So curious if you could spell out maybe your roadmap as it pertains to our platform.
Well, you know what? I'll jump in just because we are Carbon at the kind of cusp of this with Signified. We've got like almost like I said, a little over, I think it's just about a year in, and we haven't, unfortunately, and I'm embarrassed to say, taken advantage of the full suite and opportunities. So I just recently had a demo for the Decision Center. And so for us, as we've talked about before, we are really trying to understand. We feel good about our chargebacks. Signified has helped us. I've learned even as recently as today that we've got a 99% approval rate, which is amazing. So we feel good in those two spaces. The area that we are kind of looking to overcome challenges is with this abuse and friendly fraud. And I've just learned so much today and throughout the partnership about what Signified has available. I'm very excited about what we can do moving forward. One of the big key takeaways for me has been such a huge visibility that is provided by Signified that we otherwise wouldn't know, these pockets of losses that we wouldn't necessarily see. So I'm very excited about what they can do as far as like our biggest, which anybody in e-com probably suffer. I've talked to so many people here, and it feels so good to know that like I'm not alone pulling my hair out over the biggest loss, which is item delivered, not received by customer, right? So you've got some people that legitimately, we've all looked at tracking and it says it's delivered, and we look out our front door and it's not there, and then we check in the bushes and I found stuff in the weirdest places. It's still not there. So now I'm like, it happens, and I've had it happen multiple times from the same company. So those same customers who call in and say that, they are telling the truth, or they're not. Right? They're scammers, and they definitely got it. And now, they know that, at Carbon, we love our customers. We're going to give you a refund, or we're going to give you a replacement. And so now that's what they do. So it's that hard space of having that visibility, but then determining how you treat that from a customer experience standpoint. I'm either going to say, hey, this sucks that this happened to you. We're going to take really good care of you. Or I'm going to say, you're a horrible liar, and now we're not. So... that's one thing I can say that I'm very excited to dig in with Signified more on how we can have that visibility, that awareness. And Signified's been very helpful with us. I mean, even to the point we're kind of scrappy. We're in the startup space, setting up our macros and our responses to the customer. So what are other businesses doing? What's that email look like that goes to the customer that says, hey, there's something going on with the order, looks a little weird, we're not going to ship it, give us a call, kind of a thing. So it just had a lot of support, and looking forward to what's next.
How about you, Devin?
Currently, possibly, I heard somebody mention that you're looking into returns abuse more, so possibly look into that. Something that we haven't really utilized yet is setting up a bulk feature. So when our team is too busy or we need to do overtime, to send those orders as well for approval or reject, rather than just the ones that we're canceling. Those would be the two biggest ones.
I am
you,
not.
Sheena?
I am not a Signified client, but I'm wondering if I'm being courted by being here today. No, honestly, I'm not a client yet, but I am very familiar with everything that Signify does to help support our merchants and really feeling empowered to taking on fraud and fraud prevention. So yeah, if you are courting me, well played. This has been it's been a great
Sheena,
experience.
we have your contract waiting for you at the booth, so there's no problem there. All right, let's give our panelists a round of applause, please. Thank you. I'll let you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, congratulations on the awards. Thank you, John, as well. Appreciate it. All right, one last time. Here we go. One last. Aren't you so over my voice? Okay. One last time. Give it up for Indy.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College.
The t-shirt's still in the bag. I didn't want to do another outfit change. But you're here, and that pretty much guarantees you did not throw away your shot. You took advantage of all the networking and all the content that was available to you today, and you even survived a fire alarm. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. There will be shots of a different kind at the after party. Stu will tell you more details about that. We will come back to that. I'm not going to give you guys a big speech. I do want to say we started the day talking about how Flow is really meant to be the human face of and the best of our community, our commerce network. I hope you felt that today. There was real knowledge being shared, real hard-won experience. I took copious notes. I feel smarter. Granted, that's a low bar. For all of you, hopefully you also get something out of all the different conversations. It is hard, though, to celebrate community without also recognizing the people that mobilize that community, that bring it all together and make it all possible. This is such a great breath of fresh air, right? We're here together, talking, shaking hands, forming new ideas. And so I want to take a minute, and I hope you'll join me in appreciating the team that made all of this possible. So I have a couple of quick thank yous and special shout outs to do. I'd like to start with Sarah Kincaid. If you can raise your hand. Are you here, Sarah? Sarah? Awesome. So Sarah and her design team took what is otherwise a fairly corporate and, quiet space and just brought it to life and helped elevate the energy here and all the little details outside that hopefully when you stepped off the elevator and you felt like, all right, this is going to be a great event, that's all Sarah. So thank you, Sarah. I want to take a minute to thank Camille Chang and Ashley Kilbasa. Yeah. Camille, Ashley, right in front. If you enjoyed the speakers today, or speakers, if you had a good time being here and talking with our guests, with fellow speakers, those are the two people that made that possible. Just really engaging our community, engaging our clients to find the stories that need to be told. And I hope you enjoyed them. And thank you again, Camille and Ashley, for everything you did. Couple of more quick thank yous. Where is Ashley Biggie? Biggie? Andrea Stark? All right, looking the wrong way. Andrea Stark, Ashley Biggie. If your LinkedIn feed got taken over by Flow Summit ads, it's their fault. But it's also why you're here. For those of you who are able to join us for dinner tonight, that was a Biggie special. And you probably said hi to her on the way in. So again, it takes a village to put on something like this, and it wouldn't be possible without him. So thank you again to both of you. Also, if you're going to make Notorious B.I.G. jokes, she has heard them all. But you're welcome to try. Sorry. Last, but certainly not least, The main man himself, the guy who has been tireless for months now. He's coming off of MRC followed by Shop Talk, and he's still standing and made really sort of masterminding all of this possible. All the way in the corner, Mark O'Sullivan. He's wildly embarrassed that I just did this to him, but he also deserves every bit of the love coming his way. That's all I had for you. Thank you again for joining us today. It has been a pleasure hosting all of you. But before we let you go, I'm going to get Stu back on stage so he can tell you about happy hour, after party, all of the other good things, and the other shots.